Welcome to Infinite Universe. We are here with new interesting episode. Zoe Kravitz had always been seen as someone who carved out her own space in the entertainment world. With her unique style, artistic talent, and confident personality, she didn't rely on the fame of her parents to define her. But despite creating her own path, Zoe found herself emotionally entangled in one of the most unexpected and personal Hollywood breakups, her mother Lisa Bonet's separation from Jason Momoa. For years, their family had seemed like a picture of stability and love, admired by fans and media alike. The separation came as a shock to many, but especially to Zoe, who had grown up seeing Jason as a significant and steady part of her life. Lisa Bonet and Jason Momoa had been together for more than a decade, and their relationship was often viewed as one of Hollywood's rare success stories. They weren't flashy or constantly in the headlines for the wrong reasons. Instead, their low-key, spiritual, and deeply affectionate relationship stood out. They gave off the impression of being deeply in tune with each other, calm, grounded, and surrounded by love. Whether it was through interviews, red carpet appearances, or candid photos, they presented a strong front. They blended their family seamlessly, with Lisa's daughter Zoe from her earlier marriage to Lenny Kravitz, and the two children she had with Jason, Lola, and Nakoa Wolf. It was easy to believe that they had found a balance that worked. Zoe was raised in an environment that embraced art, creativity, and independence. Her father, Lenny Kravitz, was a legendary musician known for his rock star persona and soulful depth. Her mother, Lisa Bonet, was celebrated not only for her role as Denise Huxtable but also for her off-screen life that reflected authenticity, spiritual depth, and a bohemian spirit. Zoe was exposed to music, acting, fashion, and a way of life that encouraged her to express herself freely. She didn't grow up with strict rules or expectations. Instead, she was encouraged to explore who she was and what she loved. This gave her a strong sense of identity and confidence from an early age. By her 20s, Zoe had already started to make waves in her own right. She appeared in films, led her own band, and made a name for herself in the fashion world with her bold and unconventional style. While her last name carried weight, it was her talent and individuality that truly helped her stand out. Through it all, her relationship with her mother remained strong and central. Lisa was more than just a mother, she was a guide, a confidant, and Zoe's emotional anchor. Whether Zoe was facing decisions in her career or struggles in her personal life, Lisa was the person she turned to for clarity and support. When Jason Momoa came into Lisa's life in 2005, Zoe was still a teenager. At first, it was an adjustment. Her mother was entering a serious relationship, and like many teens, Zoe wasn't sure what to expect. But Jason made a lasting impression. He had a magnetic personality, tall, powerful, and charming, yet incredibly gentle and funny. He didn't try to force a connection, he let it grow naturally. Over time, he became a solid figure in Zoe's life, someone she could count on. He respected her individuality, offered guidance when she needed it, and gave her space to be herself. As Jason and Lisa's relationship deepened, they had two children, Lola in 2007 and Nakoa Wolf in 2008. Zoe quickly embraced her role as a big sister. She adored her younger siblings and took pride in being part of their lives. The family felt close and warm. It wasn't uncommon for them to spend holidays together, travel as a group, or be seen laughing and hugging in public. Candid family moments, captured on camera or shared during interviews, often went viral. Fans and followers admired how modern, loving, and grounded their family seemed. There was a deep sense of mutual respect between everyone, including Lenny Kravitz and Jason, who often spoke kindly about each other. It was rare to see an ex-husband and a current partner get along so well, and it only reinforced the idea that this was a family rooted in love rather than ego. Zoe was proud of that image. She saw her mother happy, in love, and part of a stable family unit. It gave her comfort and inspiration, especially as she worked her way through the challenges of fame and adulthood. But nothing stays perfect forever, and behind the scenes, things began to slowly change. Jason Momoa's career exploded after his role as Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones. His intense performance and striking presence made him a breakout star. From there, his rise was fast and unstoppable. He became a global sensation, especially after landing the lead role in Aquaman. Suddenly, he was constantly traveling, filming in distant locations, attending premieres, and doing press tours around the world. His schedule became packed with international commitments. While this was an exciting time for him professionally, it brought new challenges to his family life. Lisa, who had already experienced fame at a young age, had chosen to step away from the spotlight. She preferred a quieter, more introspective life. She focused on her family, her spiritual practices, and staying grounded. Unlike Jason, she wasn't interested in chasing big roles or traveling the world. This difference in lifestyle created a gap that only widened with time. Zoe, who had grown up witnessing the emotional toll of fame, could see the warning signs. She knew how hard it was to keep a relationship strong when one partner was constantly gone. She had seen how fame could pull people in different directions, no matter how much love there was between them. Still, she hoped that her mother and Jason could hold on. They had seemed so solid, so different from the rest. Jason often expressed how much he missed his family when he was away. He would call, send gifts, and try to stay connected. Zoe appreciated these efforts. She reminded him to take breaks and be present when he could. She believed in the values her mother had always taught her, that emotional well-being and spiritual connection were more important than success or money. She thought that as long as Jason remembered that, they'd be okay. But slowly, those little cracks began to show. Jason started missing more family milestones. Birthdays came and went, holidays passed without him, and there were fewer moments of shared peace. Lisa began to feel the weight of his absence. Though she didn't complain openly, she confided in Zoe about her feelings. She admitted that she sometimes felt invisible, like her needs and presence were no longer as important. It wasn't that Jason stopped loving her, it was more about the distance that fame had created between them. For Zoe, this was heartbreaking. She could see her mother hurting, but she also cared about Jason. He wasn't a villain, he was just someone caught in the whirlwind of success. But that didn't make it easier. Zoe found herself caught in an emotional tug-of-war. She wanted to support her mother, who had always been there for her. At the same time, she couldn't ignore the role Jason had played in her life. Being in the middle of two people you love, watching them drift apart, is one of the hardest things Zoe had ever experienced. There was no one to blame, no simple fix. It was just a quiet unraveling of something that had once seemed unshakable. It forced Zoe to accept a painful truth: no matter how perfect things may appear from the outside, even the strongest families can face deep, private struggles. Zoe truly wanted to be there for her mom, always ready to offer support and comfort, yet she also understood that Jason had his own deep passion for his work. She knew he wasn't a bad person at all. In fact, he loved his children and cared a great deal about his family. Zoe believed that people shouldn't turn against him simply because he was busy or constantly away from home. Even though she felt torn between the need to support her mother and understanding Jason's commitments, Zoe maintained an open heart toward both of them. At one point, unsettling rumors began to surface about Jason. There were whispers suggesting that he had grown overly close to certain actresses while on set, rumors that quickly started to float around in the media. Most of these stories were never proven and sounded as if they could easily have been made up, much like the many false stories that the tabloids churned out about celebrities every day. For Zoe, who was already familiar with the constant barrage of unfounded rumors about herself and her famous parents, these claims did not seem particularly surprising. At first, she did not take the gossip too seriously, expecting that it was just another one of those fleeting pieces of celebrity drama that would pass with time. However, things began to change when Zoe noticed that her mother, Lisa, started to doubt the many denials offered by Jason. It wasn't simply a matter of idle gossip anymore, it had grown to be about trust and whether Lisa still felt truly valued and secure in the relationship they once shared. The seeds of doubt had been planted, and though neither Jason nor Lisa had intended for things to fall apart, there was now a cloud of suspicion hovering over their once unshakable bond. Nobody ever expected a breakup between Lisa and Jason, least of all Zoe. In early 2022, when they announced their separation with a poetic statement that talked about seismic shifts, it left everyone, including fans and those within the entertainment industry, absolutely stunned. Their message was gentle, almost mystical in its tone, yet it offered no clear explanation for why things had come to an end. In that moment, Zoe was flooded with a swirl of emotions. She felt immense heartbreak for her mom, yet a part of her still cared deeply for Jason. Her worry wasn't just about her mother but also about her younger siblings, who had grown to love and rely on the warmth that came with having both parents at home. As news of the separation spread, it sparked a flurry of discussions and guesses about what had truly happened. Many people began to assign blame in different ways. Some accused Jason, saying that he had chosen his career over his family, while others suggested that Lisa had been holding Jason back from reaching his true potential. Yet, those who were close to the family offered a different perspective. According to them, it wasn't about one single mistake or a sudden betrayal. Instead, it was about the slow, gradual distance that grew both emotionally and physically over a long period of time. Zoe had noticed this progression in the relationship. Two people who had once loved each other deeply were being pulled apart by their differing paths in life. During this difficult period, Zoe found herself in an incredibly tough position. Having already experienced the pain of her own parents' divorce when her mom and Lenny Kravitz had separated years before, she deeply understood how breakups could affect every member of the family. She did her very best to comfort her younger siblings, always assuring them that their dad still loved them, even if he wasn't living with them anymore. At the same time, she was the person her mother could confide in completely. Lisa chose not to share her innermost feelings with the public, but she felt safe opening up to Zoe about the emotional turmoil she was experiencing. This placed Zoe in a position where she felt torn and overwhelmed by the responsibility of holding space for all those complex emotions. Because she did not want to worsen the situation or make things more tense by speaking out in interviews, Zoe often kept her words very vague when discussing the breakup. She would answer questions without giving too many details, carefully sidestepping the topic to avoid adding fuel to an already fragile situation. Those who were close to her knew, however, that she was carrying a heavy load of emotions inside. She was trying to keep her family united while simultaneously dealing with the deep personal pain that came from watching a family she had cherished slowly change beyond recognition. Despite all the personal grief and uncertainty, Zoe managed to express her love in quiet and thoughtful ways. She would often speak fondly of her mother, praising Lisa for always staying true to herself despite the challenges that fame had brought into her life. At the same time, she continued to acknowledge Jason's kind and generous heart by sharing little moments of recognition for the good he had done. But there was also a sense among fans that Zoe was holding back, keeping parts of her true feelings private. This reticence made some people think she was simply being cautious, while others suspected that there might be more going on behind the scenes than anyone was ready to admit. The official statement about the divorce was crafted to be calm, friendly, and even optimistic. However, as time moved on, it gradually became apparent to those in the know that deeper, more personal issues were at play. Trusted sources began to hint that these problems had been building up for a long time. Jason had reportedly felt that Lisa had not supported him enough as his Hollywood career took off. He had wished that she had accompanied him more often on his travels and been more involved in the glamorous yet demanding celebrity lifestyle that his rising stardom required. In contrast, Lisa felt that the man she had married was changing into someone unrecognizable. The life of red carpets, glamorous movie sets, and blockbuster successes seemed to have altered him in a way that left her feeling increasingly isolated and misunderstood. Zoe was painfully aware of these shifting dynamics. She had witnessed firsthand the gradual erosion of a bond that once appeared unbreakable. Two people who had been so in sync were slowly finding themselves adrift, pulled apart by the very forces of success and ambition. Throughout it all, Zoe's role was one of careful mediation. She found herself trying to comfort her younger siblings by explaining that even though their family was changing, the love of their parents remained. While she did her best to be a supportive presence for both sides, it also meant that she had to navigate a delicate balance, one that left her feeling caught between two worlds. Her efforts to maintain neutrality were evident in everything she did. In interviews, Zoe refrained from delving into the messy details of what had gone wrong. She would provide brief, vague answers when asked about the breakup, always ensuring that she did not reveal too much. But behind that careful exterior, she was silently carrying the weight of the deep emotional pain. She was absorbing the shock of the separation and trying to keep the once close family united in the midst of a painful transformation. As the situation unfolded, rumors began to emerge that hinted at Lisa struggling to come to terms with the changes in her life. Sources close to the family mentioned that Lisa was not only doubting her relationship with Jason, but she was also rethinking many aspects of her own life. Lisa, who had long been known for her calm and introspective nature, was now finding that the divorce had forced her to re-examine how deeply she had relied on her marital bond for emotional support. In this time of intense personal reflection and adjustment, Zoe became one of her mother's greatest pillars of strength. She would encourage Lisa, reminding her that embracing her own independence could be not only liberating but also an essential step towards healing. Even though some people speculated that Zoe might harbor resentment toward Jason, those close to her said that she never felt anger. Instead, she retained fond memories of the Jason who had once welcomed her wholeheartedly into his family and supported her artistic endeavors. One of the most complicated layers of the situation involved Zoe's father, Lenny Kravitz, and his relationship with Jason. Over the years, Lenny and Jason had developed a friendly and respectful relationship, often sharing light-hearted moments and jokes on social media. Many fans had come to view their camaraderie as a sign that modern families could find a way to blend together harmoniously, regardless of past separations or differences. Yet, even this warm connection had its complications. Jason, it was said, felt somewhat uncomfortable with how close Lisa continued to be with Lenny. Meanwhile, Lisa always regarded Lenny as an integral part of her life, a figure who provided stability and unconditional support. This unspoken tension sometimes added another layer of difficulty for Zoe, who cherished both her father and the family dynamics they had always shared. Throughout all of this, Zoe took on the role of the peacemaker. It was something she had been doing for her entire life, quietly smoothing over disagreements and helping to ease tensions whenever they arose. Even when emotions ran high, Zoe managed to keep her cool, using her innate ability to listen and understand to keep everyone's feelings in check. However, no matter how much effort she put in, some issues ran too deep to resolve quickly. By 2024, when the divorce process had officially become more formal, it was clear that Lisa and Jason had already begun leading separate lives. This new phase in their lives marked the beginning of a more distinct separation, a clear indication that the divergence in their goals and lifestyles had grown too wide to bridge anymore. Following the formalization of the divorce, Lisa began to turn inward, diving deeper into her passions that had once taken a back seat during the height of the relationship. She immersed herself in writing, photography, and other creative pursuits that allowed her to express the depth of her emotions and rediscover parts of herself that had long been hidden. Meanwhile, Jason continued to focus on his film and television career, traveling extensively for his projects and even becoming more involved in charitable endeavors, particularly in areas like ocean conservation. Their divorce, surprisingly, did not escalate into a bitter public battle over money or custody, a scenario that many had expected in Hollywood. Instead, they managed to keep the more painful details of their breakup private, choosing instead to project an image of calm maturity and mutual respect. Despite the quiet exterior they maintained, it was clear to those who truly cared that both Lisa and Jason were deeply wounded by the separation. The process was a mix of grief and liberation, as each of them sought to redefine who they were outside of the relationship. In interviews, Zoe made sure to keep her comments focused on her professional life and avoided diving into personal details about the split. However, those close to her noticed that even in her casual remarks, there was a lingering sense of sadness and complexity. It was as if she carried with her not just her own struggles, but also the sorrow of seeing a family that she had always treasured unravel before her eyes. Amidst the chaos of the divorce, Zoe found herself working even harder to build her own career. She landed big roles, took on projects behind the scenes, and even ventured into directing, a move that showed her determination and the influence of both her mother and father. In every interview, she appeared confident and focused, traits that had been instilled in her through years of navigating life in the spotlight. Nevertheless, her heart remained tender for her younger siblings. Understanding how profoundly the changes could affect them, Zoe made it a priority to stay connected. She would call them frequently, invite them along to film sets, and spend as much time as she could with them to offer comfort and stability during this challenging period. What caught the attention of many outside observers was how Lisa and Jason managed to handle the painful breakup with remarkable grace. Even after the separation, they made conscious efforts to work together as co-parents. They attended important family events side by side, ensuring that Lola and Nakoa Wolf felt the comfort of both parents, despite their personal differences. Some people saw this as proof that genuine friendship still lingered between the two, while others thought it was simply a way to protect the children from further harm. Zoe, caught in the middle of it all, never treated the situation as a battle with winners and losers. She supported her mom's decision to remain true to herself and chase the life that brought her inner peace, yet she also refrained from criticizing Jason or doubting his love for her mother. At times, Zoe even made subtle gestures on social media, liking or commenting on Jason's posts, especially those in which he talked about issues close to his heart, like environmental protection. These small actions indicated that her feelings were complex and that the love she once felt for Jason had not evaporated completely. Instead, they had transformed into something quieter, more nuanced, an acknowledgement that even though the relationship had come to an end, the bond of family could endure in one form or another. There were darker rumors too, talk of heated arguments, jealousy over Lenny's closeness, and even suggestions of emotional manipulation. Zoe never addressed these rumors directly. Friends and close family members mentioned that she was exceptionally good at keeping her personal life separate from her public image, a necessary skill when you live under constant scrutiny. She once confided in someone close to her that the truth of the situation was far less dramatic than what the tabloids claimed, yet it was just as painful, if not more so. In her own words, she expressed that sometimes, even when no one is clearly to blame, the accumulated hurt can be enough to break something that once felt unbreakable. As time passed, Zoe began to see this painful episode not only as a loss but also as a period of growth for everyone involved. She watched her mom rediscover old interests and even explore new creative avenues. At the same time, she saw Jason channel his energy into fresh artistic projects and charitable causes, both of which seemed to be aligned with a deeper set of values. In many ways, the divorce, as painful as it was, became a catalyst for change. It forced both Lisa and Jason to confront who they really were and to step away from the roles they had once played so perfectly. Although it meant that the romantic chapter had ended, the breakup allowed each of them the freedom to grow into their truest selves. Through all of these changes, Zoe's position in the story remained as a delicate but steady force. She bridged three distinct lives, her mother's, her father's, and Jason's, without taking sides or allowing bitterness to define her. Instead, she embraced an outlook where love could change form instead of disappearing altogether. Her actions and quiet words conveyed that even though the intimate closeness they once shared was gone, the family's bond was still alive, albeit in a different manner. Even in moments of private sorrow, Zoe held on to the belief that some things in life, like the love shared by a family, do not simply vanish. There was an underlying hope in her eyes, a hope that one day, despite all the changes and the lingering pain, they would all come together again at family gatherings, celebrating milestones as they once did. And although those occasions might not restore everything to how it once was, they would serve as gentle reminders that bonds, once formed in love, tend to evolve but never completely disappear. Zoe often reflected on the lessons learned from these challenging times. She realized that real life rarely unfolds like the neatly scripted stories we sometimes see on screen. Instead, it is messy and complicated, filled with moments of joy intermingled with moments of pain. The breakup between Lisa and Jason reminded her that even when things seem perfect on the outside, there can be an undercurrent of issues building up over time, a slow drift that might end in heartbreak if not acknowledged and addressed. Looking back, Zoe understood that the separation wasn't just about a single incident or mistake. It was the result of years of subtle changes, a gradual pulling apart that left both Lisa and Jason feeling isolated in their own worlds. For Lisa, the quiet pain of feeling sidelined had built up until it was impossible to ignore. For Jason, the lifestyle change that came with global fame had made him distant, even if only unintentionally. And for Zoe, this evolving situation meant having to juggle conflicting emotions, always trying to be supportive, yet feeling the sting of a shifting family landscape. Throughout this entire journey, Zoe strove to be a calming presence. She reminded herself that both of her parents had once shared something beautiful, and that the end of that romance did not mean the end of everything. Instead, it was a turning point where new chapters would begin, chapters that, despite their inherent sadness, could eventually lead to personal growth and a deeper understanding of what it means to be a family. Even when the media painted the divorce as a dramatic, explosive event, the reality for those who knew them closely was much quieter, more introspective, and laden with years of unspoken emotion. In the midst of all this, Zoe never lost sight of her own identity. Despite the emotional burden placed on her by witnessing these life changes, she continued to nurture her creative passions. Whether through acting, directing, or simply sharing a thoughtful comment on a social issue, Zoe's actions reflected her determination to forge ahead while maintaining her values. Even though she had already experienced the pain of her own parents' separation, this new episode reminded her that growing up with heartbreak in the background made her not only resilient but also deeply empathetic. As the years unfolded, it became clear that the family had moved into a new phase of life, one where the old labels of husband or wife no longer applied in the same way. Jason and Lisa, now separated, focused on nurturing the relationship they had with their children. They continued to show up at important events together, projecting an image of unity and care, even if their personal lives had taken divergent paths. Zoe, in her thoughtful and caring manner, became a symbol of that very idea, living proof that the essence of family could transcend even the most painful breakups. At its core, this chapter of Zoe's life was marked by the acceptance of change and the painful beauty of growing up. It taught her that while the love between two people might change, it doesn't vanish completely. Over time, she saw that the end of one phase could be the quiet beginning of another, a phase filled with self-discovery, the pursuit of personal passions, and the understanding that even through heartbreak, life goes on. Zoe's journey through this tumultuous period was not marked by bitterness or anger, but rather by a quiet strength and a compassionate willingness to hold on to hope. In her eyes, the evolving relationships in her family painted a picture that was both sad and beautiful at the same time. It was a story of loss and renewal, a reminder that sometimes, moving forward means letting go of what was familiar, even if the memories remain cherished in the heart. Zoe's experience affirmed that the struggle of finding balance, even in the face of emotional upheaval, could ultimately lead to a deeper understanding of oneself and the true meaning of family. No matter how much things had changed, the love that held them together could still be found in those small, everyday moments when a call from a parent, a shared laugh with a sibling, or a supportive word from a friend lit up the darkness of uncertainty. Even now, as each family member continues to navigate their own path, Zoe remains a bridge between the past and the future, linking the cherished memories of what was with the hope of what could be. In her quiet way, she constantly reminds those around her that while the romantic love between parents might evolve into something else, the deep bond of family endures. It is a bond that, despite the distance that fame, ambition, or differing lifestyles might create, can ultimately provide solace and strength to everyone involved. Through all the ups and downs, Zoe learned that support sometimes means accepting the situation as it is rather than trying to force it back to what once was. In the face of rumors, painful separations, and the ever-changing dynamics of a modern family, she found comfort in the idea that love might change form but never completely disappear. Her journey taught her that the end of a relationship does not necessarily mean the end of connection, it might simply be the start of a new way of loving. And so, as the days turn into weeks and the weeks into months, Zoe continues to stand by her loved ones. She watches as her mother explores new creative horizons and as Jason embarks on fresh projects that speak to his evolving identity. She cherishes every moment with her siblings and holds on to the hope that one day, maybe in a quiet family gathering, all the pieces of this complex puzzle will come together. Even though the transitions are challenging and filled with moments of loneliness and uncertainty, Zoe's unwavering commitment to the idea that family is more than just living under the same roof remains a beacon of hope. In the end, this story is not just about a breakup or the painful consequences of unspoken doubts, but about the resilience of the human heart. It shows that while life can bring heartbreak and unexpected change, these experiences also have the power to make us stronger, wiser, and more understanding. For Zoe, every difficult moment is a step toward becoming the person she aspires to be, a person who holds both sorrow and love within her, embracing both as essential parts of life. This transformation is a reminder that, despite the fading of certain relationships, The bonds of family and the lessons learned along the way have a lasting impact. As Zoe moves forward, she does so with the quiet assurance that even if the story of her family has taken an unexpected turn, the love and support they share will always be there to guide them through any future challenges. Like and subscribe our channel. Thanks for watching. Keep it and stay tuned.